DeWolf, the host of Wine and Dine. So welcome back to one of our weekly by the glass tasting groups. So in today's edition, we're going to talk about the wines of the Côtes du Rhône. So the Côtes du Rhône comes from, well, not surprisingly, from across the Rhone Valley, but predominantly the southern Rhone. So the Rhone, and particularly the southern Rhone, is in the southeast portion of France. It's defined, of course, by the river that runs through it. We can talk about some differences between the south and the north. The north, the river is more meandering, a few more twists and turns. The vineyards tend to be a little bit steeper. The weather is more continental. And the varietal list a little shorter. In reds we were thinking much more about Syrah, and whites a lot more about Viognier and Marsanne. Now in the south, as it expands. The terroir becomes a little more rolling hills, the weather becomes more Mediterranean, and the varietal list expands. So when we talk about the wines of the Côtes du Rhône, we're talking about traditionally blends from multiple places, but that's changing a bit. There's a lot of history in the Côtes du Rhône. Things have evolved over time. The start of that history is about 600 BC with the Etruscans, but it really was the Greeks and then the Romans that really brought winemaking to the Rhone. Now, over history, there's been a lot of changes in the Rhone and a lot of ups, to be honest with you. The papal court was in Avignon for centuries, and the Vatican never lost its love of wine. So now there was a lot to protect in the way that there was a lot of history with the Côtes du Rhône. So not surprisingly, in 1937, the Côtes du Rhône becomes one of the first appellations of France. So the appellation, that just means a defined region with defined grapes, defined ways of making wine, and things that they control certain aspects of the vineyard as well. So when we're talking about the Côtes du Rhône, the grapes have to come from one of 171 communes, or little communities, you could say. And they produce three styles: white, rosé, and red. Now, the first two are nearly produce as much as the reds. So reds are really about 85% of production. And within those styles, we can have levels too. So we have Côtes du Rhône Village, which means grapes for these wines come from one of, individually or collectively, from 22 named villages. Now, you move to Côtes du Rhône Village and then find it followed by another name, like this one, Visan, means all the grapes were sourced from Visan, one of the 22 villages. So, those 22 villages that have been defined to have special terroir that identify that they have a unique character. So let's taste through the wines. We're going to start with the white. So white Côtes du Rhône, 12 allowable grape varieties, the most important being Grenache Blanc, Roussanne, Marsanne, Viognier, and Claret. What I expect out of Côtes du Rhône Blanc is this kind of exotic nose, rich, some texture to the wine, but a back-end freshness. So I guess we're going to see if we get that with this wine from Cellar Dauphin. So this wine, predominantly Viognier, but a little bit of Marsanne and Roussanne in there too. And I already love the color. The color has got a nice golden reflection to it. It's quite bright and luminous. And the aroma is exactly what you want. You got really fresh pear and apricot tones. Delicious. With a slightly mineral-like undertone there. When you taste this wine, you're looking for that combination of body and then acidity, which this wine delivers. So you get a little bit of texture up front. That's really back-end cleansing. So when it comes to food, with a fresher style of Côtes du Rhône Blanc like this, we want to think about seafood with some little bit of exotic spicing. When we get to really rich Côtes du Rhône Blanc, we can think about really rich, like North African cuisine, so even some curry from India. So that's a good little wine for, I think that was $16.99 at the NSLC. I might finish that later. Now, rosé is increasingly popular. And we can tell by the color of this one from Chapoutier, one of the classic producers of the Rhone, that it's made in what we would call the Provençal style. You know, Provence is a little bit to the east and south of the Rhone, and they're famous for making rosés. And they make them pale and they make them dry. This one has a nice, like, kind of red berry, but there's something almost cotton candy-ish in there too. But that fruit comes back in the foreground. Nice freshness in the background. Definitely, if you like Provençal style rosé that are kind of dry, this is a good one for you to enjoy. Yeah, great. A little bit of textural richness, so might have had a touch of oak in it. I think the white might have had a touch of oak too. It was like a vanilla tone on the back end. Whether or not, not overpowering though. So if you don't like a lot of oak, you'll still like these wines. So let's move to the reds, and we're going to do work our way up. So if you're at home and if you have all five like me, good on you. But if not, let's taste individually together. So first wine is Maison Xavier, Côtes du Rhône, Essentielle. So the lower level, most basic level of Côtes du Rhône doesn't mean necessarily it's less premium or not as good as others. It just means that they've sourced their grapes from a number of places within the Rhone. So this wine is a négociant wine. So négociant means they don't necessarily own their own vineyards. They collect from other people and then produce a wine that, so they, in a way, négociant can select too who he works with and who they work with. So this one, good reputable producer who's sourcing from other people. So this is more traditional blend, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, a little Cinsault in the mix. Really, really expressive floral and red fruit flavors on the nose. Sometimes you have to spit, otherwise I will be falling over as I finish this. But really fresh. So if you want, not too heavy, really fresh, nice red fruit character. Great wine for you. Louis Bernard, Côtes du Rhône Village. So this means they've sourced the grapes collectively from different places, but all the grapes are from within those 22 named villages. So this one, pretty much just Grenache and Syrah. So the fruit, back to red, but maybe a little bit more on the jam side. So you go to the market, pick up a homemade jar of strawberry jam. That's what you smell. So it's really on that strawberry, really on that jam, really kind of simple one direction on the nose. That's good. It's fine. A little bit darker fruit, a little more jam fruit on the palate. Good freshness in the back end. Nice, simple barbecue wine. Kind of wine you'd bring if you want to have just a smorgasbord of barbecue fare, sausages, hamburgers, steak. That's the kind of wine that really works for you. I should say too, good rule of thumb, take whites 20 minutes out of the fridge, 20 minutes before you serve them. Reds, put them in the fridge 20 minutes before you serve them. So these wines, especially from the Côtes du Rhône, really love a bit of a chill on them. Serve them about 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. The last wine is Domaine La Florine. Visan, so Côtes du Rhône Visan, that means it comes from one specific village. So these grapes are grown on vineyards about 300 meters in height, clay-rich soil, quite pale. So not expecting massive volume, but what we get here is some interesting stuff going on the nose. So there's Grenache, Syrah, I think there's Cinsault, Carignan, and some of those other grape varieties where these first two reds played really into the Grenache, and that red fruit flavor. This has got some other stuff going on, so spice and earthy tones, savoriness. It has a sort of what I consider a naturalness to it, so I wouldn't suspect that this winemaker is doing non-interventionist winemaking. Super fresh, super pure, super clean, nice back-end structure, really elegant wine, and not that expensive. All these wines range between $16.99 and $27. These two are at Bishop Cellar, other three, NSLC, but you see how much quality is placed into relatively inexpensive wine. So anyway, I encourage you to pick up a bottle of Côtes du Rhône. I think of it as my summer, these as my summer barbecue wines. This with fish on the grill, rosés with charcuterie, easy entertaining, just a bunch of these on ice, some charcuterie boards, and these as my go-to all-purpose barbecue. You've got some sausages, you've got steak, hamburgers, they love them all. Anyway, come back soon and we'll do another tasting. Cheers.